doesn't love a good amusement park? The sights, the sounds, the smells, the lines, the pop music, the mascots, the games, the lack of appropriate seating to just take a break, the massive markup on common items that you could probably just get for like $3 at Home Goods and print your own logo on that costs half your teeth because of the f***ing latitude and longitude. Did I mention the mascots? Look, he sat on the inside, like you! I kid, mostly. Amusement parks are a blast, no matter the age. Getting the chance to ride a ride at breakneck speeds, buy merch that you can't get anywhere else, and make memories that last a lifetime is invaluable. Fun fact, when I went to Disney World a few years ago, I ended up waiting an hour and a half in a line for a ride. The ride? Peter Pan! Oh, if you could only see what a passive-aggressive piss baby I was after finding out that the ride was over before I had the chance to blink. Amusement parks are some of the most magical places on Earth, especially for young kids. And since video games are toys for babies, it makes sense that tons of video games based on amusement parks have been made since the dawn of the medium. Hands down, the most famous is the Roller Coaster Tycoon franchise. This let you live out the fantasy of running your very own amusement park. Build roller coasters and carnival rides, build food stands and hire clowns. Kid yourself for any length of time that you did any of those things and didn't just launch people off coasters into a fiery death because you're the type of kid who ripped the wings off dragonflies. That series was by no means the only one to tackle the idea of a theme park adventure, some examples being Disneyland Adventures on Xbox, which dropped its Kinect support in its next-gen spit and shine the same way that you cut an X out of an old photo. Universal Studio Theme Park Adventure for GameCube, which your parents got you as a cruel joke at your expense. And Six Flags Fun Park on the Wii, a game that I had to find out exists so that I had a third example. But what if there was a game that sought to combine the joys of running a theme park with the fun of being in one? And then, what if that game got a sequel because I bought Thrillville off the rails instead of the original one? Bite me! Thrillville Off the Rails is a game that, if you weren't already aware, would shock you when you found out who the publisher was. Yes, LucasArts was the one who laid this glorious game egg, in 2007 no less! The ones who actually made the game, as in put code to paper, were Frontier Games. In one of the most beautiful cases of inbreeding I've ever seen, the company's roots were actually in designing theme park games. The developers not only ported the first Roller Coaster Tycoon game and made expansions for Tycoon 2, but developed Tycoon 3 themselves, a process which ended with them taking Atari to court because they had only been paid a third of what they were promised. Atari there, proving why they're the best ones to hold on to this franchise. Or any franchise for that matter. New video coming soon. Thrillville was a project they were working on between Wallace and Gromit Games and Connectimals, putting them in the vaunted company of Aardman and Rare, but like, discount Aardman and Shambling Corpse Rare. Oh, also Elite Dangerous, one of those space flight games that sought to make Steel Battalion's controller look like a VTech. Their bread and butter was actually these simulation-type games, and they decided to expand upon that into an even bigger game with the Thrillville series. This would combine the ideas of making your own theme park with being able to get a boots-on-the-ground, up-close and personal look with the things that you made. It wasn't enough to run the park, why not get to run around it as well? It was a really charming concept, and one that stuck with people for a really, really long time. Children of the 2000s recognize Thrillville in the same way you might recognize your second-grade teacher. Wow, I thought you'd be a much bigger part of my life for a much longer time! Advertising for this game was insane. Even if you didn't play it or even play games, everybody has fond memories of this game for whatever reason. I think the idea of being in charge of an amusement park that you got to play around in was just so tantalizing that everybody wanted a piece. Eventually, in 2007, the sequel, Thrillville Off the Rails, came out, and after that, I've seen mayflies with a more dragged out death. That was it. We all quit Thrillville cold turkey, never seen or heard from again. Nowadays, Thrillville just sort of exists as this collective memory, and today we're gonna see if it's worth protecting these games with rose-tinted glass. So when starting up a new game, we get a character creator! But it's really more of a character modifier. We get a very, very small group of options to tweak between pre-existing bases. Keep in mind that every single NPC in the game was made with this character creator, so you're definitely going to run into a few doppelgangers throughout your playthrough. I made Kyle Ugly, the missing member of the Elite Street Boys. We get introduced to Uncle Mortimer, who has a tier park that he's pawning off on us to see if we could possibly turn a profit for the first time ever. Kyle Ugly is still talking about how he hates school lunches and math homework, and is now responsible for the salaries of hundreds of hardworking men and women who keep this park running. Our job boils down to 5 key aspects: building, playing games, guest interactions, upkeep, and management. Each one of these is represented by a heavenly pillar of light that we absorb the knowledge from. Building is pretty obvious. Can't have a park with just walkways, so you gotta build stuff. You build arcade games, carnival rides, roller coasters, and concession stands for the people to enjoy. You gotta be aware of how much moolah these things cost, as well as the power they'll use from your park. Playing games sounds like the last thing you should be doing when trying to calculate how long to make lines to make sure you don't have to have a built-in morgue to deal with the heat stroke, but Uncle Lortimer says that even the work at Thrillville is a game! Oh, how are we going to maximize walkway space to ensure the constant flow of people around the park without making the thing seem barren? Oh, let me play Tetris real quick! There are actually a ton of instances in the game where to progress you need to play the games that you built in your park, but we'll touch on the games in particular later. Guest interaction is both the funniest and creepiest part of the game, since any number of the hundreds of people in the park can be taken aside and asked their opinion on any number of things. What they think of the park, their personal interests, hints for games, personal address, social security, all the fun of the fair!
I like that video game with the echidna.
Upkeep is all about making sure your park doesn't turn into the barren hellscape littered with garbage and child blood that it would be under Uncle Mortimer's watch, by hiring mechanics to keep the rides running, groundkeepers to keep the grounds kept, and cheerleaders to keep the crowds from experiencing total brain death. Finally, management is all about maximizing profit. You set the pricing, theming, and placement of your rides, marketing promotions, takeout loans, R&D for new rides. Yo, can we get a quick shout out for middle management? Yeah! After you do their tutorials, you're free to construct your park however you want. Of course, they still set goals to lead you in the right direction, all based on your 5 core responsibilities. Of course, the first thing you're going to want to do in your own park is build your own rides, where the game introduces you to the coaster editor. I can't quite tell if this is a quaint and charming addition to gameplay, or a needlessly annoying one. So when you're building a roller coaster, you get set with these really restrictive parameters. You can only construct so high within these boundaries, not over these walls or too close to these attractions. It just gets in the way of making your own roller coaster, for whatever that's worth. Unlike in Roller Coaster Tycoon, where your newly constructed ride is more of an asset than anything you really enjoy, Thrillville makes a note to let you know that you can ride the roller coasters that you make. Oh boy, let's go! Fun's bound to start any time now! So you can ride your own roller coasters in the video game. Rad, sick, other words, but the problem is you're not riding a roller coaster. You're watching somebody else ride a roller coaster. You get to sit on the bench and watch your dad ride Bone Twister for the 30th time and wonder what you're supposed to get out of this. Like, it's a cute feature the first time you do it. Maybe if you load your coaster up with whoa parts, which are one of the few things they put into this game to stop it from being a rehash of Madden proportions, but it's not enough. You can add these to your coaster for some flair, but the coaster physics in this game are so lame that they have no impact. You can only place them on flat sections of track instead of on a downward slope or on loops. So instead of having them enhance the ride, you basically stop the ride to admire them. So coasters are a flop, whatever. You can still ride carnival rides! Why would you look forward to this? Well, instead of that, let's just try talking to some of our wonderful guests! Here you can get info on what needs improvement in the park from the first exchange you have with a person, and that makes everything else after this filler at best. As a combination owner/mascot, you can ask people how they're doing, share trivia with them, give them gifts you can win in games, and even challenge them to games themselves. The pool of prompts you can use to talk to people is shockingly low, meaning that you're going to be telling people about blood pudding, floating ice cream stores, and your absolutely made-up pets so often. But there are a few classes of topics that you can choose from that might relate to your current victim's interests, but you don't really get to know that until you tell them something stupid and see if they appreciate it or not. The back and forth you can have with your guests is absolutely hilarious for the fact that this is apparently how people talk in the Thrillville universe. I can only conclude that there is lead in the water. Where it gets creepy is with the fact that Kyle Ugly is legal, and as such is insatiably horny all of the time. If you come across a girl your age, you can flirt with them by giving them VIP fast passes, complimenting them, before eventually making out with them. This is unfortunately a vital part of gameplay. Imagine having a bad experience at a park and as a make good you got an open mouth kiss with Mickey or Donald. But instead of a beautiful rat, you get an incel with a heart of gold. Sure, I was controlling him during these sections, but don't think I was any less uncomfortable. Sometimes Kyle gets hit with the hard, I have a boyfriend, which causes him to spiral further down and make out with a girl in a group of friends, call her his girlfriend, and then immediately do the same thing with another girl in the same group. When you whip out the old you look like a horse compliment, you've basically got a free pass to every woman's heart. What's worse is that if you make a male friend, you can get them a woman by taking over their body and seducing a girl in their stead. Listen, I know you want to make their time at Thrillville a magical one, but I don't think it's up to me to get this guy a partner. When you make friends with someone, you can see them in a little friend Rolodex with all their needs, including their need for a partner, which, why are you telling me this? Hey man, great park. I love the teacup game. I really need a woman. I don't think there's enough bathrooms around the east side of the park. Anyway, later, Gator. The worst part, though, is just how pointless talking to people is. Sure, it's a neat feature, but what do you really accomplish by talking to people? All the info they provide is also on a menu in your guest tab, so just look at this and skip the simulated awkward small chat. So what about the upkeep? This park is crawling with vermin like rats and children, so we need a way to keep this place up and running. Well, you can hire random Joe Schmoes and Jane Schlanes to clean it up, fix up, and dance. All three of them fall under minigames. Starting with cleanup, you get to play as the same janitor every time, regardless of what the one you actually hired looks like, and get to suck up trash with your Ghostbusters proton pack that warps reality from the looks of how hard it's sucking. Despite that, it takes a frustrating amount of time to actually suck anything up, with it sort of just floating near your nozzle until it decides it was picked up. After that, you blast vomit with water until it goes away. It's the best of the three games, and that should be a startling statement that worries you. The Repairman game is a classic tube game to connect the power box to various circuits with pipes. Problem is the fact that this game doles you out the pipes in the order that you need to use them instead of giving you them in a menu to select from. That means all you gotta do is move slightly forward, then lay down the next pipe, meaning that this is a puzzle game with zero brain usage. It's a comical lack of effort you need in order to ace this game. What's especially great, though, is that if a lot of rides break down at once, you have to play the game every single time, over and over again, in the exact same way. Then there's Cheerleading, which takes the form of a rhythm game. Those who know me know that I have no rhythm to speak of whatsoever, and I'm going in with a handicap, but even then, I really don't like how this game works. I swear to God this is ripping off some different rhythm game with these controls, and I'm sure I'd hate that one too! You have to rotate the reticle around to catch the icon and press the right button at the right time, but it has this stagger to some of the commands that can really mess you up. Again, don't take my word on the rhythm game's quality, but I couldn't stand playing these parts. Before getting into the meat of the game, because yes, building the park is not that, touching briefly on the visuals and sounds, this game doesn't look bad for a game that's pushing 15 years old, but the soundtrack is practically a fossil. So much late 2000s nu metal and butt rock is in this game, most of which I can't play because it samples much more famous music for its backing tracks. It is a pain to listen to and is used all over the game. In rides, in menus, walking, you never get a break from noise! Just like a real amusement park! So, the meat and potatoes of the game. You know what's worse than the management side of Thrillville? The shockingly abundant not management part of Thrillville. In order to win the game, you have to earn park points in order to increase your clout in the amusement park world. And the way you go about doing this? By making a good park that people enjoy going to? No! You make an amusement park you enjoy going to! Almost 80% of your playtime in this game will be spent playing minigames that you set up around your park for park points, either playing against NPCs or to stave off the loneliness of an amusement park built for one. The game shows its wicked true colors at this point, as we had all assumed it was a park management game, when in reality, it's actually a Wii-era minigame collection! Yep, instead of making games that could hold your attention for any length of time, we have games that at best rip off other arcade games, or at worst, are pool. There are 50 games in total in this game, most of which are either grandfathered in from the last Thrillville, or updated with sequels. It would be stupid and completely unnecessary for me to give my opinion on every single game. If I'd see even one of you saying I don't do anything for you, I'm gonna slap you! Here are the top 50 Thrillville minigames. Number 40, Sparkle Island 2. Number 39, Coconut Shy. Number 30, I should probably explain these actually. Sparkle Island 2 is if Bubble Bobble was coated with their eyes shut. The controls are floaty and unresponsive, the game likes to cheat by spawning enemies on top of you, and worst of all, this game is required for like 4 missions. The Coconut Shy flat out doesn't work. I couldn't figure out how to throw anything other than the wimpiest throw ever thrown, so I ended up just not playing this one. Test your strength as mashing one button, hitting the same button twice, and then the game pisses in your eye. Squadron Ace shows that not everybody can just make a Star Fox game, and that includes Nintendo! It's insane that they went on to make Elite Dangerously from this. Splatamole. Sure. Saucer Sumo, Bumper Cars, and RC Wars all go together because bumper car games don't work. The controls are way too stupid loose, and turning has a bigger radius than most houses. Next is the mechanic game. Like I said, I feel gray matter leaking out when I play this. Bucking Bull is incredibly boring. All you do is move your mouse to keep it in the center to not fall off, although I did misinterpret this the first time and send Kyle Ugly on a one-way trip to the Thrillville hospital. And, before you ask, yes, it's just Dr. Mario. Alley Ball is what heathens call skee ball and is really finicky as you either throw the ball like you're tossing the game-winning pass, or you toss it like you're tossing a ball to a newborn. I have, like, 2 hours of footage of me just playing Vendor Tender. It's like a sort of match 3 game, but mixed with Zuma. You luckily get the ugliest 3D character ever made to cheer you on, so at least there's motivation. Games of this last upwards of 15 minutes at a time without any substance to justify that length. Trampolines is just pressing jump and spinning around while doing tricks. Honestly, the fact that I have this much to say about a trampoline game is astounding. Alright, the next 5 are the racist games, because they're the exact same game of racing around a track with a different theme every time I have this. Let me go! Alright, halfway there. It's number 20, Auto Sprint 2. I didn't actually play Auto Sprint 2. I'm kinda just hoping it was alright. The Groundskeeper minigame is the quickest of the upkeep minigames, so that's pretty great. We're still not on to the 5 out of 10 games. Saucer Soccer was pretty great, because I was too dumb to actually get the ball away from you, and instead you just get to slam jam field goals. Haha, this counts as my sports game for the year. You can play mini golf, and every time you shoot for the hole, it will bounce out in the least satisfying way possible. Pool. Robo KO is just inputting the same combo string over and over again because the opponent can't fight back, and eventually you wear out the keys on your keyboard. Please, somebody tell me what this game is ripping off. I know it's stealing from some game on Newgrounds, but I can't for the life of me remember the name. We are officially into the games I wouldn't deny playing for fear of being bullied over it. Tank Frenzy is a decent little shooter game, but still far from anything I'd call fun. You move so awkwardly, which is right for a tank, but wrong for a fun video game. Have you ever wondered what Gauntlet? But if the air was skeletons, and the ground was skeletons, and you play as Thug, who is a skeleton in a Flesh Gundam. Congratulations, that's Trojan Frenzy! And somehow these 2 games, Tank Frenzy, Trojan Frenzy, unrelated. Numbers, I think we're on like 11 through 7, are all the shooting gallery games, which get a new coat of paint 5 times with pirate, space, cowboy, zombie, and a mystery number 5 theme. I can't remember it right now. Moving on to our top 5 probably are the 5 games I consider passable to not get blamed off Newgrounds. First up is Event Horizon 2, known by its other name, Gradius. It got different ship options, some power-ups, enemies that come out of nowhere, one-hit kills, it's all good, brah. Luftwaffe is just 1942, but late by a few years. Honestly, wait for my video on 1942 for my opinions, it's gonna be sick. I wrote number 4 is all of the shooter games, because there's like 4 of them with the same theme as the shooting gallery games. They were probably just made with the leftover assets of a shooter they had made from a previous game, because these are much better than anything beforehand. You got a lot of weapon types, kind of stilted movements, no enemy variety. Look, they managed to make the bullet come out of the end of the gun. That's not a given nowadays. Number 4 is Sparkle Island. I don't actually like this game, but I forgot to put it on earlier, so it's going here. And finally, number 3, Bandito Chinchilla. I'm convinced, given the time and resources, they would have just rather made a Bandito Chinchilla game. They gave it cutscenes, multiple levels, boss fights, a theme song. They even dedicated one of the cutscenes to the little guy. This game has launchers, cross-ups, okies, we got juggles, alright Evo, listen up! Main stage Bandito Chinchilla. Those are all the games, and I genuinely cannot impart upon you just how much of this game is spent playing them. I have hours of footage of these games, and maybe a cumulative 2 hours of anything else. You can manage the park, but all that lets you do is run ad campaigns and take out loans, which you'll only ever need to do when entering a new part of the park because money doesn't carry between parks. Is the exchange rate at Thrillville that bad that we can't afford to take my $14,000 from one park to another? Yeah, Thrillville is made up of 5 distinct parks with 5 themed sections in them. You get Car Land, Macro Land, Swinterland, just sort of whatever land, and Theme Park Land. These sound like interesting park themes. Okay, they don't. But what makes it worse is the fact that in these parks, the only places that you can actually build anything on are on these big open plots of land and the coaster tracks. If you want to put anything anywhere else, tough turkeys, cowboy, better just slow your roll. This makes the game feel less like you're building a theme park and more like you're just putting building blocks in somebody else's sandbox. There's no chance for creativity to put your own spin on anything. Your park has a high chance of looking the exact same as somebody else's park. You put down a few rides, a few games, a bathroom, and that's it. You do that a few more times and the game's over. There's a very distinct cutoff where this game stops being fun and becomes mind-numbing repetition. And that's the exact moment you realize that in the second park, you're doing the exact same thing as the first park over again. While you're running around the park, you run into loads of kooky characters, like Mo Potts, who bums everything off you because I don't think Frontier Games has a very high opinion of critics. You got the Steak Twins, who claim to be the best at everything, but I own the park, so I make sure I never lose.
You broke my record.
That was so incredibly easy.
Oh, you're just saying that because you're devoid of human decency.
There's Tim Twinklefingers, an elite-level gamer who I hope committed a horrible crime so I can have him killed one day. My word is law, and murder is legal in Thrillville grounds! I have to keep building attractions just so I can beat him at them. It's a vicious cycle! But he and I have the exact same face except for glasses, so I need him gone. You run into all of them from time to time and have to beat them in games to earn more park points and up your rank. Here we see the benefit of working with Lucasfilms, as I am now a G-Force Jedi. And I don't need to worry about being murdered by George Lucas. In the final park, it's revealed that there's a traitor in Thrillville, and it's up to me to suss out who it is.
Tell us who the Thrillville traitor is.
Fuck you! Ah!
You can do this all day, Mo.
We have to go through every single person to find out who it is. Even people I've never met before, as they claim to be a part of my inner circle. Honey, I've kissed people who I don't consider close friends. Do you think I remember Barry?
I am the great Barry von Richthofen, and I have returned for one last great duel.
I have to ruin the lives of so many people who stake their entire lives on their ability to play park attractions before finally following the breadcrumb trail back to Tim Twinklefingers, who, it turns out, is actually the owner of Globojoy, the park running against Thrillville. And,
by the way, I beat the game 20 minutes ago.
Now it's my job to smoke him out! And that comes down to another game of Robo-KO, and then you're just left to your devices for the rest of your days. Don't even kick out Tim, he just gets to stay. Uncle Fortimer, you can have your park back. I have school tomorrow. Well, of all things I expected this video to be, childhood ruining certainly wasn't it. I remember having the best of times playing Thrillville back in the day, but now, coming back to it, this game is just so shallow and uninteresting. It's not complex or engaging enough to be a roller coaster tycoon, but it's not mindless and fun enough to be a Mario Party. It took the worst of both franchises and just mashed it together. Almost every minigame is outshined by games you can find on Miniclip or Congregate, and the coaster creator is so uninteresting it just leaves you with nothing to look forward to. I don't say this often, but getting to make out with random women doesn't save the game!